When it comes to soloing, one of the biggest hurdles for newer guitar players to get over is to break out of that first pentatonic position and start playing horizontally up the fretboard. So what I want to do in this lesson is give you one quick way to break free from that pentatonic box so that you can start covering the entire fretboard. So let's start with the tried and true position 1 of the pentatonic scale. I like to call this the home bass because I'm so comfortable with it. All right, so in A minor, it looks like this. And something you can do with your pentatonic scale is because it comes from a corresponding major or minor scale, we can actually turn that 5-note scale back into its original 7-note scale. This is very important when it comes to playing more melodically. Some guitar players like to stick to the pentatonic. I'm a guitar player who really likes to have access to those extra notes because I feel like there's just more you can do melodically. So when we fill that out, you'll see in the graphic, we'll have the pentatonic scale notes will be in like a dark red, and then the light red notes that are added, those fill it out into that full major minor scale. Okay, so that's where we're gonna build everything from. And you might have noticed that I said major or minor. And that's because with a position like this, we actually cover both major and minor keys through something called relative major and minor keys. So wherever your pointer finger is with that shape that we just worked on, that is your minor key. So in this case, it's on an A note on the 5th fret. That means that when we play in this position, we're playing in the key of A minor. Well, we also can play in the relative major key, and that's just based on where our pinky lands in this shape. So our pinky here on the 8th fret is C. That means that this is also at the exact same time a C major scale, or a C major pentatonic if you want to leave those extra notes out. So because of that, because they are relative scales, they contain all the same notes. So if a song is in the key of A minor, well, I can play around with this scale and it's going to sound good. If a song is in the key of C major, I can play around with the exact same scale and it's all going to sound good as well. Keep that in mind down the road when you want to play in another key and you're comfortable with this. Well, that first finger of the position is always going to be your minor. That pinky finger is always going to be your major. So if a song is in the key of C sharp minor, I'm just going to take my pointer finger, put that on a C sharp note, which is on the 9th fret there, and position my shape accordingly. We could do the same thing for a song in the key of B flat major. Because it's major, we just use our pinky. So we position our shape on a B flat note, which is on the 6th fret. And because it's major, we use our pinky, and that would allow us to play in the key of B flat major. Now, we call this position 1 because there are 5 total positions. You've probably heard the 5 positions of the pentatonic scale, and all these 5 positions are different places to play the exact same notes as you move up or down the fretboard. So if I'm in position 1 here and I go to play in position 3, you don't need to know this yet, but when I play those notes in position 3, so let's do position 3 of the A minor pentatonic scale. Those notes are the exact same notes as the notes in this scale. The only difference is that I'm starting at a different point in the scale, but it's all the same notes, right? In this case, I'm just starting on the D. It's still an A minor or C major pentatonic scale. Now, when it comes to playing horizontally, what a lot of people do is they start to learn those extra positions, right? And they start from position 1, and then they go to position 2, position 3, etc., etc. But what this can do is just totally overwhelm you because you're probably comfy, able to play, maybe improvise a little bit, come up with some licks in position 1. But as soon as you move into those other positions, you're probably much, much, much less comfortable. So what I like to do is this whole concept of having a home base, and then we build outposts. So we pick another position that we like, and we work on that, and we get that up to the same point as our home base. Maybe we're not quite as comfortable, but the idea is to get close to as comfortable. So we build an outpost. We can pick any other position we want. In this case, for this lesson, we're going to be using position 3. And right now you might be thinking, well, just moving from one shape to another is not playing horizontally, but I promise we're going to get there and it's going to be really cool. So let's look at our position 3. Now, the pentatonic version of this, which I kind of already showed you, it looks like this. Right? This position, to me, is not the easiest to visualize and memorize necessarily, because Obviously, you've got those 3 strings that are similar. The other ones you're kind of moving around. But what we do is we flesh that out into that full 7-note scale. Again, right? We turn it back into a major or minor scale. Once we do that, it's a little bit easier to remember because the strings look a little bit more consistent. So now we've got this. What we're going to do next is we are going to build a pathway through all of our shapes to connect position 1 and position 3. Now this pathway actually technically can get us all the way through all the positions, but we're going to think about it as a pathway that our main points are our home base. The pathway takes us to position 3. Down the road, as you get better, you can use this pathway to jump off at any of your potential outposts. So any of those other positions that you eventually start building up and get comfy with, well, you can use this, and there are many pathways. This is just one of them, to jump off of and get into that new position. So this other shape, the cool thing about this is it's technically a horizontal or diagonal, would probably be the best way to say it, a diagonal pentatonic scale. We're going to start all the way below our position 1. So technically, once you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up the positions, you start back at position 1 again, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they repeat if we had an infinite fretboard. So what that means is what's behind position 1, if we've got space, that would be position 5. And the cool thing about this diagonal pentatonic scale is that it's the same pattern, just repeating up the strings. We do have to compensate at one point, but it's very simple. Okay, so it looks like this. Think about it in chunks of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's taken us from our position 5 and pulled us up into position 1. Now we're going to play the exact same shape starting up onto the next string. Okay, same thing. It's pulled us up into position 2. Now we're going to do the exact same thing by going up a string, playing the exact same 5-note shape. The only thing is because of the B string tuning, we do have to make a little adjustment. So instead of going right above, we do have to go to this note here on the 8th fret. And that has pulled us right up into position 3. Now we could do one more little jump just to get us into position 4 if we wanted to. We're not going to worry about that. And the cool thing about this is it's putting your hand right in position to play that position 3 back down. So again, okay, you can play it however you want, and then right there, so just to kind of give you an actual example of this, if I am playing just some random notes from the scale, let's say hypothetically I'm improvising here, I'm trying to come up with a melody, I'm just going to play some random notes from the home bass. When I arrive here, well, now I know, because this is from my diagonal pathway here, I can climb up it. And then I can play some notes from position 3. And I can even go backwards down the path. So I can go from that position 3 back to position 1 rather than pausing in position 3, moving my whole hand and playing in position 1. Now I've got a way to flow back and forth. Now when it comes to improvising and soloing with this stuff, as long as you're in the correct key, all of these notes are going to sound pretty good over whatever song you're playing along to. We talk a lot about chord tones on this channel and making sure that you're hitting chord tones, highlighting those and stuff. As you're getting comfortable with certain scales and certain shapes, I really recommend not worrying about that at all. Just playing the scale that aligns with the key of the song is totally gonna work. So if we're in the key of A minor or C major, any note here from the diagonal pathway from either position is going to work and sound good. As you get better and better, once you're more comfortable with this, then I would recommend looking into trying to add some chord tones in here. So I want to show you just one very quick example along to a jam track. I do have a little jam track pack. It's called Slow Pop Backing Track Pack, something like that. It's linked in the description. It's totally free. If you want it, the track we're going to use is there. Otherwise, you can totally just use whichever jam tracks you want. Just make sure that you're in the right key. Okay, this track is in the key of A minor / C major, so all the stuff that we have just learned is going to work and sound good. Just going to show you position 1, home bass. All those notes sound great. Position 3. Right, our diagonal scale. Also sounds great. So that means that we can just play around with any of these notes. Even when the chord progression changes to the chorus here, just play around with the positions and the notes. Just find stuff that sounds cool to you. Chord progression changed, same key. So all the notes still work. Now, the amazing thing about what you just learned is that nothing changes when you want to play in any other key. The shapes don't change. All we have to do is change our position, like we talked about earlier in the video, is that as long as you align your pointer finger with the minor or your pinky finger with the major, you're going to be in the correct position. Nothing else changes. So if we wanted to play in the key of G minor, I would take my pointer finger, boom. That would go on a G note. Now I'm in G minor. All the shapes are the same. Right, my diagonal path through them. And position 3. The shapes aren't changing, I'm just shifting things up and down the fretboard. So once you get the hang of this, I'd recommend you start learning about targeting chord tones within the scale. So I'm gonna put a lesson that'll get you started on all that stuff right up in the middle of the screen for you if you wanna check it out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.